is NDF Talks, conversations with patients, caregivers, and families. We are here today with Tara Vogel, who's going to answer some questions for us. Hello, Tara.
Hello, Amy. How are you today?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, thank you.
So we're here today, and we're going to ask some questions. The first one is, do you recall your initial thoughts when you received your diagnosis?
Oh, I do. It's so clear in my mind. It was
Yeah.
2011. I got a call from the team member from the Children's Hospital in Boston, and she said to me that you have no-naka myopathy. They've been studying my family information for about 2 years, thinking we have a subtype of limb-girdle muscular dystrophy. But in 2011, she said, we found out you have no-naka myopathy, which is another name for GNE myopathy. At the time, I didn't realize. I said, oh, well, no-naka sounds Japanese to me, and I don't remember having any Japanese ancestry or Japanese family in our ancestry. So that moment, to me, I felt a very huge sense of relief, a kind of joyful kind of relief that now I have a name to associate with this mystery disease my siblings and I have been suffering from. And some of my siblings have been suffering from this disease for about 40 years. And now we have a name to associate with the disease.
That's a long time, 40 years, to think about not knowing what your disease is, and you finally found someone in Boston. That's quite a long way from home. How did you find the doctors in Boston?
Well, I connected to Muscular Dystrophy Association years before that. I went to their clinic, and then they said, well, Dr. Jerry Mendel is doing a study on limb-girdle muscular dystrophy. Do you want to go to Ohio State, where he's at, and he will take some blood samples and muscle samples? And so I went there, and he took biopsies of my arm and my legs and took blood samples and put it in the data bank of several universities, and that's how I got into a study at or my family got into a study at Children's Hospital in Boston.
Wow. I'm glad it led to your final diagnosis after so long.
Yeah, it felt so liberating, and I think a lot of patients who are in my shoes or our shoes would have felt very liberated after getting a diagnosis, you know.
I think so too.
Yeah.
How would you explain your disease to your family and friends?
Yeah, it depends. I usually, if I know the person, I'll go into details. If not, I'll tell them, look, it's in a nutshell, I'd say my body has a defective gene. All of our bodies have genes, but mine has this defective gene called GNE myopathy, and this gene is not making a special kind of sufficient sugar, which is called sialic acid. Unlike your body, you're a normal person, you guys make sufficient sugar, sialic acid, so your muscles are getting enough. If they want to know more, I would say, GNE myopathy is a very rare disease, and it causes progressive muscle weakness. And finally, most of us will have to use a wheelchair. If they want to know more, I'll tell them it's a defective gene I inherited from both of my parents. Although my parents don't suffer with the disease, they're carriers. And usually I'll say, look, if you want to know more, you could go to the NIH website, the National Institutes of Health website, uh, um, or the Neuromuscular Disease Foundation website, or the World Without GM website, and you can learn more about this disease. And I also write a blog. I'll share that blog site with them as well.
That's good. That's, I like how you have different levels of sharing to explain it to different people. Oftentimes, children can come up and ask you as well. Do you have any explanations if a child comes up and asks you?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. How to make it so that the child, in a child's vocabulary, they would understand it. And I'd go and I'd tell the child, look, all of our bodies make this sugar. It's a simple sugar called sialic acid, but my body is not making enough so that my muscles would stay healthy. How would
Good.
you explain that to a child? I'm curious.
Well, I was a teacher for quite a long time, and I guess sometimes I didn't even go into that much explanation depending on how old they were. I would just say, my body isn't able to keep my muscles working, so I have a hard time walking. A lot of times they would just ask me, why am I in a wheelchair? So that's what I would say to them. And if they were older, then I would go into the sugar, about how my body can't make a sugar. So I would just respond depending on how old they were about it. Yeah.
Well, I have a lot of nieces and nephews, and I will use your line next time.
Yeah. Yeah. Because whenever I was with kids grades 1 through 8, so I would vary my answer depending on what grade they were and what they were asking me. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I wouldn't shy. I'm the type of person, I don't shy even in public. If a child is looking, I would say, hi, how are you? And then they'd probably say, why are you in a wheelchair? And then I would explain, I have a difficulty walking because my muscles aren't working right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. What, if anything, has really surprised you about GNEM?
Oh, I'm so flabbergasted by, GNEM in a good way, in a really, really good way, because it has allowed me to become more of my true self. You know, I don't have to have any facade. It seems like over the years, all my facade has dropped, and uh, I'm it has allowed me to transcend so many boundaries, not only physical ones, such as my environmental challenges, but also psychological ones, such as fear, love, and acceptance. When I feel a fear of something, such as, walking, I usually push myself beyond that boundary to walk, or like lifting my feet and clearing my front door's threshold. So it has pushed me to really get over a lot of fears.
I understand that. Absolutely. We end up having more fears than I would see other people having, but then it pushes you to be stronger in the long run,
Right.
in a lot of different cases as well. I also
Yeah.
feel it brings us, in an everyday sense, I feel like it brings us more empathy and acceptance of others with their own differences as well. And I feel the world needs more of that. And people see us and accept us, and then they're more open to accept everybody in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I find that GNE myopathy has opened up my tolerance to love more fully without any preconceived judgments. I also find that it has slowed my busyness to where I now enjoy life better. Although
Yes,
GNEM is physical limiting in many ways, I find that I have been given a big chance, a chance to know that life is precious.
you're right. You're exactly right. It physically forces us to slow down, but then you can concentrate on exactly what you feel is the most important to you. And you don't have to have the rush of the world. Like everybody else
Right,
feels the rush, rush, rush. We can
right,
concentrate
right.
on what's most important to us.
Yeah. I feel I've
Yeah.
been given this very big gift. It's such a big gift, Amy, that I really cannot put into words. It's just a sort of a feeling of my heart, and it's so big. And the big gift to me is one of connecting with and helping patients worldwide, which add meaning. It adds so much meaning to my life. I call it La Dolce Vita. And my late father would say, it's to be of service. That's why you're here. And it's such a joyful feeling for me.
I understand that. I feel the same way. I always wanted to be a doctor, and then I changed my profession to a teacher, which is in service to others. And then when I left that profession, and then I became an advocate like you and helping patients, it fulfilled my life almost even more because I am still of service to other people and helping them. And I do it from my home, but I still feel that connection and that want and that need, and it feels so fulfilling.
Yeah, it's very fulfilling to be of service to others. You know,
Yes,
it helps us to be more accepting of our physical limitations and to know that we are of help to others.
yes. Thank you, Tara, for this interview. Uh,
Thank you, Amy. This was great.
it,
Yeah.
it was great. And I'm hoping that everyone else out there enjoyed the interview as much as we did. And we hope that you tune in to the next session of NDF Talks with patients, caregivers, and families. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Have a
Bye.
great day.